Talk about breaking news, man. Was not expecting this tidbit of information. But the sources that I wind up getting this from actually comes from PowerRanger.com, or as it's spelled, perranger.com. They actually get this from Mega Power Brazil, though, but it says, at first discovered by Mega Power Brazil a few months ago, we can now confirm Power Rangers is leaving Netflix. Except MMPR, Ninja Storm, and Beast Morphers on January 31st or February 1st. No word if it will move to Tubi TV like other Hasbro properties, because I think Tubi TV also has like G.I. Joe's, Transformers, and things like that. Maybe some of their past cartoon content or whatever the case may be. So yeah, Mega Power Brazil apparently confirmed this maybe a couple of months back. I don't really remember that story, honestly, but perranger.com is running with the story. I believe comicbook.com has also picked up on this as well, that Power Rangers is in fact leaving Netflix. Now, it is interesting to point out, because I did want to go ahead and check for myself over here in America. Now, I'm sure maybe across the country it might be different. I don't know if everybody's getting every show that's being taken down, but I will say this. The report is correct that MMPR is certainly still up there. Ninja Steel is up there. Beast Morphers is up there. For me, at least, I also realized that In Space did not have a removal date on there also. Now that could be different for other people, but when I put in Space and I go ahead and click on it, oh, never mind, it's up there now. It wasn't up there earlier today, but it says last date to watch on Netflix, January 31st. So yeah, it looks as though those might be the only seasons that are in fact remaining, because I swear when I checked it this morning for In Space, it did not have the departure date, but I guess they do now. So yeah, MMPR is still staying, Ninja Steel is still staying, and Beast Morphers. If anything, I would probably assume Beast Morphers is probably going to stay there for a while. I would assume just because of the fact of maybe licensing rights. I mean, they usually tend to be rather late when it comes to releasing like all of their second season. Has all the second season of Beast Morphers been pulled up there? Let me go ahead and check, because I'm curious if they're maybe not going to pull it yet, because they want to make sure that all the episodes are there. No, I'm just seeing the first 9 episodes of season 2. So yeah, all of season 2 for Beast Morphers hasn't even been posted yet. So I'm pretty sure that'll probably stay up there for a while. MMPR, and of all the seasons that you want to go ahead and keep Ninja Steel up there, like, I don't really know what they're doing there. But I will say this comes as a huge surprise to me. A huge surprise to me. Maybe it shouldn't, considering the fact that we know that the deal with Hasbro along with Nickelodeon is set to expire at the end of 2021. So maybe when it comes to their licensing agreements that they've had with Netflix, maybe some of them are in fact not being renewed or being pushed back. So we'll certainly see. Like, if anything, this kind of feels like maybe Hasbro is kind of considering maybe moving their stuff elsewhere. I certainly hope it gets moved elsewhere. For me, I think the biggest tragedy would just simply be not having Power Rangers anywhere to be watched and available at all, considering just how old some of these seasons are. You would think they would have to, I don't want to say have to, but would certainly remain on a streaming service just for newer audience and things like that. Like, I do think it is pivotal in regards to continuing to grow the fandom. So it kind of leaves me scratching my head a little bit as to what Hasbro is doing. Do I think they have a plan? Yes, I do. We'll see what that entails, though, right? Like, does Hasbro have a plan of unleashing their own streaming service at some particular point in time? Are they trying to keep a lot of that stuff really close to the vest? Because if I'm not mistaken, I think maybe Paramount Plus, which I believe used to be called CBS Access, All Access, I think maybe they might have some Hasbro properties on there also. I thought I heard some rumblings that maybe they might move to that particular streaming service. One of the things that we've talked about and we've brought up before on this channel was the fact that one of the Business Insider articles that we read from 2019 when Hasbro purchased Entertainment One, one of the things that they mentioned and highlighted in that article was the fact that now that they acquired Entertainment One and they've got thousands and thousands upon hours of just movies and television, the idea of Hasbro rolling out their own streaming service isn't a far-fetched idea. Now, some people will probably be like, oh, another streaming service. And that's probably true, right? But is it possible for Hasbro to do that? Yes, it probably is possible. Is that the route that they want to go? I'm not quite sure. They haven't really mentioned that as part of their overall blueprint. But considering just some of the great IP that they certainly have in store, it certainly would make sense to me if Hasbro wanted to go that route and maybe take some of their own IP here in Power Rangers, since they do own that franchise and own that intellectual property. Maybe they want to go ahead and put that all into one place for them specifically. I think, it is getting to the point now where streaming is just changing. You know what I mean? Streaming is just changing dramatically, where you've got places like Disney Plus and HBO Max that create their own content, that create their own, that don't necessarily have to worry about licensing stuff out so much, that they can kind of keep their own hands on what they sort of create, right? And I'm kind of wondering if that's the direction that we're kind of going here. Maybe Hasbro sees that as the bigger picture, that you kind of want to keep all your intellectual properties all in one place, and some people probably were thinking along the lines of me, like, hey, because of the fact you have Power Rangers on Netflix already, there's really no need to move it, right? I mean, Netflix is clearly paying you to license this stuff and have it on their channel. Why not bring in Power Rangers? If you were to leave, say, Netflix or something like that, why not bring them sort of into the fold for a brand new season or something like that into Netflix? I think that's what a lot of us were certainly looking towards, but it definitely feels as though maybe Hasbro has certain plans. So, I'm really scratching my head. I don't know what this means as of right now. I'm sure there's a ton of speculation going around, a ton of theories, but the fact is that Hasbro hasn't confirmed anything as to what they plan, right? I mean, for me, it feels odd that they keep Ninja Steel and Beast Morphers. The idea of keeping MMPR doesn't surprise me. We know Hasbro's love for MMPR. Beast Morphers probably because it hasn't finished completely airing on Netflix yet, but Ninja Steel, like, that's just a season that I think I and plenty of other fans maybe want to try and forget about. So interesting stuff in regards to it. So I don't know what they're planning on doing here. I know some people are hoping that it gets pushed over the Tubi TV, but for me, I feel like that kind of hinders the franchise a little bit. I do think that it is important, especially with you trying to reimagine and reboot Power Rangers to a certain extent. I do think that it is important to keep that material out there and able for and for others to be able to find in order to continue to bring eyes to your franchise, because the less property and stuff that you have for out there for people to get on board with. I mean, Netflix is an international base, Netflix reaches millions of people on a regular basis. Like, how many viewers does Tubi TV get, right? How many eyes does it get? I feel like it's what I think. I'm trying to remember what I read about Tubi TV in regards to it being like one of the maybe second or something like that biggest free service providers out there for television, where it's ad supported, so you as a viewer certainly don't have to pay for it. I mean, that sounds great, but honestly, up until today, I have not watched a single lick of Tubi TV in my life, let alone barely know about Tubi TV. So I do feel that there is an immediate sort of disconnect right there, that you're kind of taking Power Rangers away from the public eye. And maybe not doing anything with it, or putting it somewhere else that clearly does not get as many views or eyes on it as, say, a Netflix. I think if you are going to pull it from Netflix, I think you put it towards another really big streaming service, whether that be Disney Plus, Hulu, Amazon. Heck, I don't. Actually, I do own a CBS All Access, which is kind of funny because I did do a free trial for CBS All Access. And every month on my bank statements, I always realize that they're still taking money out from my CBS All Access because I just never canceled my free trial. I just forgot about it. So I do have it available. So, I mean, if anything, I would just keep it along either one of those big services, or if I'm Hasbro, I'm rolling out my own streaming service. Like those are my only two options. I'm not moving my stuff over the Tubi TV. I'm either going to license it out to another international sort of streaming service provider, or I'm going to be rolling it out on my own streaming service where I can have all my content. Because one of the things that I've been asking for the longest time is, can you imagine just a one spot location for all your Hasbro stuff? And some people will say Tubi TV, but no, I mean being able to have the reach to reach more people than say Tubi TV, I think would be really great. So again, I don't know if that's what Hasbro has planned, but God, I'm just really hoping that they keep Power Rangers somewhere to certainly be found, because I do think, like, for me, this honestly, like, Power Rangers on Netflix honestly allowed me to get back into the franchise. You know, I had been off of the franchise for so many years, but when I found out that Saban had come back, that was going to go ahead and do the Neo Saban era stuff, a part of me wanted to get back into the franchise. It wanted me to kind of, you know, revitalize that side of me a little bit. And to be able to do that, I had to be able to go back and watch all of the Power Rangers seasons. And I'm super thankful that of all the places, Netflix provided me with that outlet to find all the Power Rangers shows so that I could get back into this fandom and get more involved again. So I do think that this is a really big kick in the ass, honestly, to kick off 2021. So a part of me is really hoping that Hasbro has a bigger plan. And even if they don't necessarily want to keep it all together, as long as they are keeping it available for us to be able to watch somewhere that is hopefully internationally, I'll be perfectly okay with that. I don't necessarily need all of Hasbro's content to certainly be in one place, but as long as it's just available so that the casual fan who maybe hasn't gotten into Power Rangers can now start getting into Power Rangers on their own, I think this is a really big sort of missed opportunity. But we'll see what Netflix does. Right? Who knows? Maybe they just haven't renewed their contracts now. Who's to say that within the next 2 to 3 months they don't come to some type of terms, right? I mean, Hasbro clearly does have big plans for Power Rangers, so maybe they want to renegotiate or, you know, rebuild their contracts accordingly with how they now have sort of this new reimagining or rebooting of Power Rangers going. You know what I mean? Like, if Jonathan Entwistle is working behind the scenes with Hasbro and they have plans to maybe release their content on Netflix, right? Who's to say that those deals that they're currently building now don't have anything to do with what's going on here, right? Like maybe it's a new way to reintroduce Power Rangers to Netflix or whatever the case may be. I'm not quite sure, but there's tons of moving pieces behind the scenes that us as viewers certainly don't get that opportunity to certainly see. So I'm keeping my fingers crossed, though, that they are maybe renegotiating to keep Power Rangers there. If not, please just keep it somewhere for the public to be able to still see, because Netflix is a huge place, man. Like, whether or not you have a subscription to it or you prefer Disney Plus or Hulu or Amazon, whatever the case may be, it's hard to deny that Netflix does have a huge presence just in the streaming world. So to take your content off of there probably hurts to a certain extent, but we'll see how Hasbro certainly rebounds. So I'm going to keep my fingers crossed that they certainly know what they're doing behind the scenes. But to say the least, I did not expect to come into this episode of APlus Morphinominal talking about Power Rangers possibly not being on Netflix any longer. I still want to see what 2021 is going to hold for Power Rangers when it comes to Hasbro. So I'm not completely jumping off the support train for Hasbro. I'm certainly going to give them the opportunity to see what they want to do with their own intellectual property, because yes, it is theirs. I know people are like, this belongs to the fans. And yes, to a certain extent it does, but trust me, Hasbro's the one that paid $500 million for the property. They can certainly do whatever they wish. Doesn't mean I have to be perfectly okay with it, but little things like this certainly do worry me, but I'm not completely off the bandwagon as of yet. I definitely want to see how this handles itself. We still have to wait to see what's going to happen with the Nickelodeon deal for 2021. So clearly there are a ton of moving pieces that are going on behind the scenes with Hasbro and Power Rangers and how they want to go ahead and present that franchise to us as viewers. So I think this is all part of their plan. we'll see what the final end result certainly is going to be, though. But it's going to suck, guys. So listen, before January 31st or February 1st comes, if there's any particular seasons that you guys certainly want to go ahead and revisit, please go ahead and do so.